All right, good afternoon. Excited to get back on our schedule. Obviously, bye week came at a pretty good time. We've been pretty beat up. Hopefully, we'll get a couple of guys back this week. We'll see how that kind of plays itself as we finish up the week. But we needed the bye week, needed that from a health standpoint, needed it from an academic standpoint, and a lot of other ways. So came at a good time. I think we got good work in it. Obviously, got a big game in front of us with Navy coming to town on Friday, so you don't get the full extent of the true bye week since you're playing early, but excited about the opportunity to step on the field with them. You know who they are and what they do. Extremely well coached. Ken, I think, does a fantastic job, he and his staff. You look at what they did last week versus Cincinnati. I mean, again, if you look at their records, you're going to think one thing. If you actually turn on the tape or turn on the TV and watch what they've been able to do, they played extremely well, and they've had a tough schedule. I mean, with Cincinnati, SMU, Houston, those guys are all outstanding football teams. You know, last week they held Cincinnati to 272 yards, I believe, of total offense. One of the more prolific offenses in the country up to this point. Obviously rated extremely high, as they should be, but they played an unbelievable game versus them, and it really kind of came down to the wire. So we know we got our hands full. They're going to be excited to come here and play, and we've got to be matching that intensity and exceeding that. Feel good about our guys and where we're at. We just got to continue to keep making progress as a football team on offense, defense, and special teams. So I think we've had good work during the bye week, had good work on Sunday, and we'll get back on the practice field today.
Obviously, you were telling us about Navy being better than their record looks, especially last week Cincinnati. They played close against Houston. Is that something you have to tell your players too, or do they know already?
No, I think obviously they're paying attention to what's going on in the conference, and they're seeing how they're playing. You look at the scores of those games, if you were able to watch any of it on TV, but obviously now being able to go through the tape and then watching them, I think it took them a little bit to kind of decide what they wanted to do early in the year from a quarterback situation. I think they've got that nailed down now. And, defensively, they've done a lot of different stuff this year. They opened up the year with Marshall, playing kind of one way, kind of the middle stretch of the year. They kind of switched defenses from a philosophy standpoint, and now they're kind of floating back into, what they did early and now what they did some last year and kind of combining all of that. So they're keeping you on your toes with what they're doing.
I guess how hard is it to prepare for Navy, and does it help to have that bye week beforehand?
I think it definitely helps us to have the bye week beforehand. I think every coach probably would say that if you were playing Navy, Air Force, Army, any of those guys. We had to kind of walk that fine line in between, trying to get healthy, but also getting work in. And so just having the opportunity to have a couple of days, especially from a defensive standpoint, to prepare for what they do, I think that is to our advantage in that sense. Now we got to go out and execute it. We got to play well. But how fast it hits. You've got to be assignment sound. You got to play very disciplined football. They put together these big long drives and they just eat clocks. And if it's 4th and 2 or less, they're probably going for it. So you just have to prepare yourself in that fashion.
How much does it help to have played Navy, every year for the last few years? It's not like you're seeing them for the first time, like your defense's experience with playing them.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I think it helps us because we've played them every year that I've been here. And, they're difficult to prepare for. I think just from the standpoint of knowing when you talk about the speed at which it plays and how fast the fullback hits and how fast, the motion happens, and then all of a sudden, they're out there on the edge and you can get out leveraged in a hurry. How the counter stuff is going to work, all the unbalanced parts of it, at least we have at least some knowledge and history and experience with it that you can fall back on. Now you still got to go out and you've got to execute it at a high level, because the way we have to play defense against them is different than we play everybody all year long. So it's a whole new deal that goes in from the standpoint of how you have to defend them.
I know last year they were, probably pretty unsettled, and your personnel was really good. But you mentioned kind of settling into, playing a different defense against them. You've played them a bunch. So do you feel good about where you guys are and what you've learned from playing them year after year, and feel like you've got a system now in place, or because they have answers to kind of everything you do, is it, not necessarily that easy to get a beat on playing their offense?
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily that easy. Okay, now, with them, like you said, they've seen everything that you're going to throw at them. And so I think you have to continue to give them new looks and new thoughts, because if you give them the same thing all game long, they've seen it, they're going to adjust and be able to operate against it. So it's about, evolving every year. Now you're going to take some things that obviously that you felt like worked well and happened for you last year and the years before that. But that being said, I think you got a continuous circle of evolving and giving them different looks to keep them at least a little bit off balance.
Davis has some experience now, but he's still a first-year starter. How do you get him prepared for a game where he might only have 8, 9 real possessions?
Yeah, that's the other part that's really scary when you play them, because you're not going to get many possessions. You've got to do a good job of capitalizing on the possessions that you get. And it's all about trying to get a lead, right? But with these guys, your execution level has to go up. And what they do defensively is very, very difficult, especially with almost honestly going into this game, looking at it like, okay, we've seen quite a few different looks and defenses from them. What are they actually going to settle on and play versus us? Or is it going to be a combination of things that they play against us that you have to adjust to from a quarterback standpoint and from a run game standpoint? So, for us, he's got to have his eyes in the right spot, take what they give him. It's one of those games where you have opportunities to hit big plays, you better hit them. And, you've got to take some chances in that area, but you also got to find ways to stay on the field and move the chains.
After that rough start to the season, I got to feel like you guys are probably at your best place you've been all year. Winners of 3 out of 4. You had your bye week to kind of recover. I mean, have you noticed that with your team and your players that they're feeling really good right now about where they're at?
Nathan, I think, yes, I think we've taken some really positive steps, and I think there's even some of those games early, I thought we were taking some positive steps and doing some good things. Are we where we're at? I think our team understands we're not, but we're continuing to work that way. I think we haven't reached our ceiling. I think we still got more potential out there. For us, I think our focus is putting our intent on what we do and how we do it, continue to get better each and every week, just kind of keep our head down and keep grinding and keep progressing and be better this week than we were last week. And I think that's what our intent is right now.
3 of your last 4 games, your running game's been really good, and seems like it's finding a rhythm. How do you feel about the offensive line, the running backs, everything working together and maybe kind of finding a rhythm in the running game?
Well, I think we've done a good job of being balanced and being able to play off of that. I do think our running game has really picked up pace in the last several weeks. I think there's more continuity right now, offensive line wise. We got to try to stay healthy there. We're starting to get running backs back healthier. Obviously Deneric played a couple weeks ago versus South Florida, wasn't 100%, but was still able to play. Shamari has carried a lot of the load. Steven didn't get to play a couple weeks ago. And so hopefully we'll have, all of those guys back and the opportunity for them to come in and affect this game and contribute. But I think we're learning more about ourselves up front and the style and the passion that we got to play with, the effort that we got to play with. And when we're targeted right, good things can happen.
How much does an offense like Navy change from year to year? It looks like on TV it may be the exact same thing every season, but are there little intricacies that they change in that offense, you think?
Absolutely. They're always trying to evolve as well. Their base stuff is not going to change, but it's little things with Navy that kind of keep you off balance. And whether it's a formational deal, how they're blocking something, how they're trying to attack the edge, how they're trying to get the edge, how they're trying to get the fullback through. There's always little things that probably to the common eye you don't see because you're just watching them play triple option football. But there's a lot more that goes into it than that.
You guys, is the priority, I think we've said in years past, is stop the fullback. Is that still the basis of what you try to do defensively?
I think you have to. I mean, that's the leading rushers on the football team right now. And those guys, if you get out of position, they hit so fast and then they're up the field on you. And if you're not careful, they're 20 or 30 yards down the field on you. So it always starts with them. You've got to do a good job stopping and trying to stop the fullback. Then you got to play quarterback and pitch and all the different levers that come off of that.
How important was not just mental rest and physical rest, but maybe the ability for Davis especially to get a week to just kind of take a deep breath and look at what worked, in the first half of the season and what didn't, and, maybe tinker with a couple of things going forward, just that extra, chance to take a deep breath and analyze?
Well, I think that's really for all of us, from his standpoint, absolutely. But it's also the same way for us up front and in the secondary and our linebackers and the combination of guys that we've been rolling in. When you look at it from the standpoint of guys that we've lost already this year and now new guys are plugging in, are we making sure that we're working and doing things to their strengths as well? But for Davis and for our coaching staff, I think obviously you sit down and you say, okay, these things he's performed really well at. These are areas that we still got to improve upon. I think the most important thing for him is just those games that he's taking care of the football. You still got to be aggressive. You still got to take your shots. It's being calculated when you do that and understanding it's okay to check some things down. And I think he's done a better job of that. And we got to continue to go in that mode.
I know we've talked before about going into the season outside the program. The expectations for Davis might have been a little high because of that Tulane game, a guy that hadn't played very much. From your perspective inside the program, is he where you thought he would be right now, or is he a little ahead, a little behind?
No, I think he's progressing really well. Obviously I agree with you, and I tried to lay some of that groundwork early, but nobody really wanted to listen to me. But yeah, I think the expectations for him were astronomical. I don't know that anybody could have lived up to that. So, I think from that and moving forward, I think he's continued to improve. I think he's, as a first-year starter, with the schedule that we played, the people that we've played, I think he's done a really good job. He's still making some young mistakes. I think every quarterback is going to do that, but he's growing and he's learning each and every week, and I'm pleased at the progress that he's made. Now we want to continue to make that same type of progress each and every week and don't take steps back.
It feels like it was eons ago, but going back to the South Florida game, you guys were down 14 there in the second quarter. After watching the tape, what was maybe most impressive that maybe you didn't recognize or see on the field there in Tampa, but then you saw it maybe on the film when you came back home?
I don't think it was one thing over another as far as from the tape. I think it was more of what you felt on the sideline and the way guys stayed together. And I talked about this after the game. Still a lot of time left. Guys understood we've got the capabilities of coming back, doing what we needed to do, but it was going to take all three phases to get that done, and just guys just being locked in and staying focused on it. You fall into that trap. It can be difficult at times to stay positive about what's happening, but I thought our team did a really good job. Our leader stepped up. Our coaches did a nice job of just keeping guys focused on, this play, this drive, this series, and let's just continue to keep chopping away at it. And then let's look up and see where we're at here in a quarter or two. And so obviously the play before half was a big one, from a momentum standpoint. And then being able to come out and really execute at a better level in the second half.
I'm assuming
Anything else? Go
you're
ahead.
too young to have remembered much of Drew Pearson's playing career. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm off on
Come
the
on.
year.
I mean, I appreciate the young call, but yeah, I grew up watching Drew.
Oh, you did? I'm sorry. I'm okay. Well, tell me about that. I mean, you obviously grew up a Cowboy fan, I would assume, and for TU to honor some of its greats and to have him back, such a big personality. I don't know how well maybe you've gotten to know him off and on through the years, but just being able to honor him on Friday.
Oh, I'm so excited for him to come back. Drew brings so much personality and energy and everything else to the table. He loves his Dallas Cowboys and he loves this place. And so I can't wait for him to be back here, for us to be able to honor him, especially in the way that he should be. But it's going to be an exciting Friday to have him back. I'm sure, fans need to obviously y'all come out. I know there's high school games going on and don't want to interrupt that part of it. But that being said, the Hall of Famer is going to be here. And, it's going to be great to have an opportunity to really show him the respect and the honor that he deserves. And can't wait for that to happen. I've had an opportunity on a couple of different occasions to sit down with him and visit. And I mean, just a really, really special man.
Anything else for Coach?
Coach, will you take the time to have him speak to your team?
We're looking at, I mean, he's obviously got a pretty busy schedule. So we're looking at the opportunity for him to come and be able to talk to the team. Hopefully that's going to happen. I would love for that to happen, them get to experience that and him get to experience our football team. So it's laid out there. We'll see if it actually happens.
Coach, I got one more for you. The new look of the AAC. Do you like the new members that are part of this league moving forward?
Yeah, I'm excited about it. I think we've added some really quality programs across the board. I like the regional parts of it, being able to add a few more teams down in the Texas area, adding another one in the Florida area. But just being able to add those type of programs, I think is going to help our conference. I think it's going to create some new rivalries and things that can happen throughout the conference. And I think the level of play in our conference across the board, not just football, but across the board, I think is going to continue to rise. So excited about those new teams jumping in and looking forward to being able to compete against them.